You know what I mean?
So again, a lot of times the people in the bureaucracies have it as hard as we do. They have as frustrating a time where it's like, there are rules, but we're not exactly told how to enforce them or what happens if you don't, and that can be really frustrating as well, because certainly we spend a lot of time trying to be compliant on a whole number of levels, and then you look around and you'll see places that either don't know or don't care and nothing really happens because sometimes nothing bad can happen to them. And it does make you wonder, why did you follow this? And that's when it becomes an existential question of whether you're like a rule follower or not.
Yeah. Well, and with Mead especially, we're neither fish nor fowl from their perspective officially yet. Not really. Because, we're still trying to get the Mead Act as to the official federal level definition of Mead still hasn't happened, right?
Well, the Mead Act, some pieces of that were incorporated into
the new tax
bill. So some of the taxation stuff.
But
I would say that certainly at an operating level of CTV, there's a pretty good awareness of what meaderies are, what mead is, and where it is. And like it or not, we're all wineries. And that's the law we're under. And it's probably better than being neither a winery nor something else, to just have a home. But right, there's still, and look, you get 10 meat makers in a room and you ask them what the definition of meat is, and you will get 11 different answers.
Mm-hmm. And then, and you get the ones all from if it's not just honey, water, and yeast, it's not mead. I always want to smack them. It's like, really?
Yeah, but look, every other beverage has had this problem. Like, it's had these debates, and it's good that we have them. And it's good that we have these conversations. I think, arguing around the idea that mead is a beverage whose alcohol is derived 51% from honey, that's a good first step. I think, a lot of people within the government have kind of at least informally understood that that's what we're talking about. Whether or not the laws allow us to always use that word, that's something we're going to continue to work on.
And that is variable because I know there's meaderies like, for instance, Rabbit's Foot has been using the word mead on its labels since day one, no problem. And yet there are meaderies in other parts of the country who are obviously getting different TTB reps than what Michael's using that are trying to put mead on their labels, and the TTB is going, oh no, you cannot do that. And, but they don't really give a reason. They just say, oh no, you cannot do that. And they won't let them do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reasons for that can range from the person at the DTB is new and hasn't really run across this finer point of the law yet, to the beverage that the person is trying to make is not, by the CFR, is not supposed to be called mead.
Well, and that's where not having a definition of what incorporates it becomes the problem, because if they're making a melomel, it's still a mead.
It is, and then there's this other thing where maybe the person who's reading that application isn't fully aware of the finer points of some of the new kind of loosening of the rules, where we can have common formulas, and we can have common labels, and that certain things can be called, like, you used to not be able to call it a cherry mead. It was a honey cherry wine, or whatever it needed to be.
Yeah.
And again, these things, like, it's easy to say, well, this has been on the books for a long time, but we're in our 5th year, which makes us somewhat, we're not Rabbit's Foot and Bee Nectar old, but pretty old for a meadery. For half of our existence, this stuff wasn't on the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. This stuff is relatively new, and if you know any brewery owners whose breweries of a certain age, they went through this too.
Oh, I did not know
this whole new wave. Oh, absolutely. This whole new wave of beers with everything in them, the so-called adjunct stouts, we just put God and everything in it, or cereal, or whatever the, weirdness we're throwing in hamburgers and fries. Yeah, sure. And a lot of those do still need to be formula approved. But
Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember. I mean, when I was writing about the beer industry, I would constantly talk to brewers who would have to talk to the TTB, who would have to occasionally go down to DC or call DC to say, like, no, we want to put jalapenos and and strawberries in this beer, and then the statement of composition, just the same way it is with Meadery, like you'd have a fight over it.
Oh my God! You put vegetable and fruit into it. Now it's a wine.
Right. Is it or is it a jalapeno ale with strawberries? Is it a strawberry ale with jalapenos? I mean, again, these things, the whole beer world went through this, not ago. And so they had a lot of success.
Are we piggybacking on what they learned and how they got it done to do it in our end of the universe?
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, that's the whole. That's certainly my whole goal. And I think the AMMA's goal is to get people unified. And just like beer had to, a big part of it is on our end. We need to make sure all of our members are knowledgeable. We need to make sure that we all know what the rules are, what the processes are, things like that. And then we have to keep working to continue to get this loosened up as it becomes a bigger and bigger part of the beverage industry. And again, we've already seen some of that. I mean, it is so much easier to get a formula and a label through now than it was 3 years ago. There are certain formulas and labels that don't even require a submission anymore. We have a common formula for Mead, which we did not have a year ago. These are really, really big steps. There are, a relatively small number of Meads for now, but once you start doing these things, it's about progressing, and it's about continuing to build that sort of faith with the regulators, with the industry and with the market, that we know what we're doing and we're producing stuff that's safe, and that we're continuing to move the beverage forward.
Cool. Do you feel like the information is starting to filter horizontally? Because I know there's some of the TTB agents that are really kind of up on me. They know their way around it, because those are the ones that everybody's always going, oh, you need to talk to Joe. He's got it going on. He knows exactly, I don't know their actual names, but, I mean, it's like, I know that there's like a couple in there that everybody's like, oh yeah, this person's great. So it would be wonderful if somehow we could get those people to disseminate their information to all the other people that are working on this stuff. I don't know how that can happen, though.
Well, the thing is, it's a government agency, so unless the government decides that they're going to put in a training program, these people probably never got a chance to talk to each other. And if they do, it's going to have to be on their own time. They're not going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Certainly, so the TTB has been actually pretty active. I mean, they took a whole bunch of new specialists to Meadery down in Williamsburg, Virginia, a few months ago. Cool. So they are very active at trying to educate people. But, like, look, and I hear if the government decides, it's so weird to me, because whenever I hear that, it's like, the government's not one thing. And the TTB isn't one thing. Yeah. It's a workplace, right? So when you imagine any workplace, there are people in it that have one item or one area and not another, and vice versa. And part of what makes workplaces work is that not everybody needs to know everything, particularly, newer employees, and that there can be that sort of faith that, no, when something doesn't work, there's somebody else there who does understand this.
Yeah.
And so as far as getting that, I mean, I've certainly found that the single best thing that, we all do is when you get something kicked back that doesn't seem right to you, rather than, stamping our feet and getting mad, to make a phone call, talk to a human being, and if you're, get a sense of their reasoning, and then say, hey, talk to a senior specialist on this, because I think my understanding of the rule is different. I've never had a problem having that conversation, and I don't know anyone who has.
Yeah, well, that's when I see people grousing, I always point out that you get more you get more flies with honey than with vinegar. And if you go in there, all pugnacious and everything, going, government, assholes, you're all against us, like a lot of people do. But if you go in there going, look, this is what I'm putting in, and I understand it got kicked back, so help me understand what I need to do to make sure that this is properly done.
And I've had specialists, tell me like, yeah, we can't do this for this reason or another. I've had them help me decide what to put on a label that works around the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I've said, okay, well, what, I get what you're saying. We can't use this. It was actually about the word mead. So, like, the mead that launched our meadery is a mojito mead called Momito.
Fun. I haven't had that
for
one yet.
half of our existence.
That yet.
Well, we'll make sure you get some.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that. I like mojitos.
Yeah. So for half of our existence, we couldn't call it its name, which was Mo-Mead-O. It was a specialist at the TTB who said, yeah, because there's mint and lime in here, we can't use the word mead. And she helped me come up with a phonetic workaround. So for a while, it was called Mo-Me-Do. Like, it was stupid, but she's the one that helped me kind of work around it. It can be helpful in that way because they know these rules, generally speaking, pretty well. And I mean, again, it's like, you're talking about, imagine you're a person, and your job is to sift through thousands of pages of the CFR and the IRC
and half of them done
memos.
wrong, and yeah.
Yeah, and contradictory. And some guy, you've got this label that you think violates a thing as best as you can read it. And so you say, hey, you can't say this. And the person calls you back and just starts screaming at you and calling you names. Does that seem like a person you're like, are you going to be like, oh, you're right, random crazy man? Like,
Yeah.
No, you're going to be like, hey, you didn't treat me like a human here. I see no real reason to help you because you're a jerk.
Yeah. I've actually said that to people that come ranting at me. There's another forum that I manage for my black powder shooting group, and there's a bunch of old codgers in there, okay, old grumpy guys, the get off my lawn kind of guys, and so I'll get emails going, you bitch, blah blah blah, gross, rah rah rah, rant, and I'll email back, go, do you talk to your mother with that mouth? Because I ain't talking to you until you start being civil. Bye now. Because they can't get into the forum, and it's like my next email is usually like, I'm really sorry. So
see, this is why when I have to bitch at somebody, I apologize in advance that they're dealing with a disgruntled customer, and please don't take it personally, but I'm pissed off, and this is why.
That's what I do, too. It's like, I'm not taking this out on you. I'm just very frustrated, so please don't take this as not you, okay? I'm very frustrated. And they'll go, oh, no, it's fine, Mrs. Rowe. We'll take care of everything.
They tend to be much receptive when you explain that you're frustrated at the system and not at them particularly.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. And I mean, look, it's tough for me in any conversation not to get political at all, and I'm not going to try here. But, I think almost everyone could agree that one major problem with our politics as they stand right now is an inability to recognize each other's humanity.
Yes.
Like, right, is that we
yeah.
see each other as, a random series of keystrokes across the internet and not as a human being on the other side trying to do a thing.
Well, and that's not just in politics, Greg. That's just in any faceless conversation. People tend to act like, pardon my French, fucking assholes. I mean, we see it all over the place on Facebook where people come on. I mean, you see it in the Mead groups. On a regular basis, you see it in the Mead groups.
What?
People come on to be
assholes in Mead groups?
Oh, I know, right? Who would have thought? Yeah.
I've not heard this before.
When people come on and they just are complete assholes, and it's like, really? Oh my God, seriously? Would you stand in front of me and say that? I don't think you would. And I've said that to people before too, same black powder shooting group full of Kajio men, where some guy came at me and actually called me like the C word and the B word, and oh my God, I mean, he just and so I emailed him back and I said, You know what? Here's where my camp is at Nationals. I dare you to come down and say that to my face. I'm betting that you're a coward and just a keyboard commando and would never, ever talk to somebody in person that way.
Did you get an apology or never spoke to you again?
I got an apology, but he never did show up at my camp because he was a coward. But the thing is, though, is that the internet, and I hate to say this because I make my living on the internet, but the internet has turned us all into faceless people who can then be randomly attacked, even by people you know. And that's what's really terrifying about this. And we can easily go off into a whole discussion about that. But the point is, though, is that the TTB is not only random people we don't know, but they're random government people we don't know. And everybody is mad at the government about something. Regardless of what side of the aisle they tend to fall on, they're mad at the government about something.
Well, everybody is being pushed towards this us versus them mentality, so it's really not a surprise.
Yeah, it is.
Well, And they say everyone's mad at the government about something because we can just use that